Hello and welcome back to the She Dares Wins podcast. My guest today is Connie.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
All right, so straight in the deep end. Can you tell me how you've dared and won?
So I am an elite CrossFit athlete. I've been competing at an elite level for like a year, 2 years now. And I've been doing CrossFit since I was 18. So that's 3 years.
Yeah.
Almost 4 years.
How does that sound to say I'm an elite CrossFit athlete?
It's weird. I don't think I've ever said it out loud. So that's, weird.
But it's true.
Yeah.
We should probably tell everyone that you train me.
Yes, I do.
Local gym. Yeah, we'll come on to that. I've got you in this seat so that I can torment you.
Great. Other way around now.
I know, it's going to hurt. No, not nearly as much as half the workouts I've done. All right, well, how did you get into CrossFit?
So I had an eating disorder and I came out of that. When I came out of hospital, I wasn't allowed to exercise at all, and I'd done it since I can remember, so since I was like 2. And exercise was a huge part of my life. It was a way that I coped with my emotions, something just where I could do it and not think about life, and for that to be taken away from me. So it kind of got to a point where I was like, I want to do something again. So I persuaded my CAMS team to let me go and do some exercise. So I started with a PT to start with, and I was allowed 45 minutes of exercise a day. A week. And then I progressively built that up. And then my PT was like, I think you'd really love CrossFit, as she just got into it. And I was like, oh, that could be interesting. So I had a look around, and at the time, it was just before we went into the first COVID lockdown. Right. I was 16. Not a lot of CrossFit gyms allow people under the age of 18 to actually take part. So I was struggling to find anywhere. We went into lockdown, so I then just kind of shoved it in the bin for a little bit, and just did some running while I was in lockdown, and got on with studying because I was still at school. And then when I came out of the second lockdown in 2021, I had a serious look around, and I found a CrossFit gym near where my parents lived in Huddersfield. And that's how I got into it. And I started, going to classes and really enjoyed it.
And they say it's like a drug, don't they?
Yeah.
It's this addictive thing. But that must have been so hard for you to have been, so you were a really sporty kid, into all sports.
Yeah.
And then to be told, I mean, I don't know where that comes from. Obviously, there's something with it, that you can't exercise.
Yeah.
Was that probably one of the hardest things that you had to go through?
Yeah, I would say so. It was really tough. Exercise has always been something that I've loved and I've done since I was a kid. I probably didn't have the healthiest relationship with it when I was deep into my eating disorder. I used it as a way of burning calories. So I do understand why they decided to stop me from doing exercise. I needed to gain weight as well, and doing exercise doesn't necessarily help that. So when I was told that I couldn't exercise again, it was hard, but I think it also made me appreciate what my body can do again, and remind myself why I do exercise. Having it taken away, you realize actually the meanings of why you do exercise. Yeah. I think sometimes we take it for granted how our bodies can move and how we're allowed to move and able to move when not everyone can move like that. So yeah, it was hard, but I think it made me appreciate it more.
And what was that first CrossFit session like?
I remember walking in, and I was the youngest by far in the CrossFit gym, and all I'd ever done was a little bit of weights, and I was pretty fit because I did try as a kid, so triathlons, and I walked in and I was so overwhelmed, but everyone was lovely and everyone welcomed me in. I remember the first workout was strict press, box jumps and burpees, and I was like, oh, I can do all of those movements, that's fine. It's when they started to add in the gymnastic stuff, and I was like, why are they moving like a fish on a bar? Why are they just wiggling about? But yeah, once I kind of understood it and understood what they were doing, I fell in love with it.
So I think this is quite an interesting thing that I can relate to. Did you have gym fear?
Oh yeah.
You did?
Yeah. I felt like everyone was judging me. I had no clue what I was doing, and Yeah, it's very overwhelming when you first walk in and everybody looks jacked and it knows what they're doing and just gets on with it, and you're like, wait, what does that movement mean?
So you were 16 at the time?
No, I was 17, nearly 18.
But still quite young.
Yeah.
You know, going into situations in life at that age anyway, I can remember back, it's tough. Yet to go into an environment, like you say, where everyone seems like they've got it nailed, is a huge step.
Yeah.
So I think that's a definite win. I have gym fear. I'm going to tell you about my gym fear.
Okay, go for it.
So, I've never had gym fear. Complete contradiction here. I used to train at a local uni gym.
Okay.
Tom's gym. And there was loads of rugby lads from uni. I didn't really care because I was working construction at times. Like, guys don't put me off. I just tell them to move. But I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. But I never had a fear of walking into a weights gym and going on a piece of equipment. But when I started CrossFit, and I suppose it's after 2 kids and a long period of time, first couple of sessions, I was like, okay, this is fine. Like, I've got this. I've been sporty. And then there was a session that I don't think you ran it, but there's a session I turned up to, and I sat in the car park, and I thought, I can't do this. And I drove away. And I've never done that before with anything in life. And I got home and Tom was like, oh, how come you didn't go? Like, you can't late cancel. He started having a go at me going, you can't late cancel because they hate late cancellers. And I was like, I know, the doctor's phoned for Archie to check up about something or other. It was a lie. An outright lie. And I came away and I was like, I've never had gym fear before like that.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, for the purpose of this podcast, that the gym that you teach at is amazing. Everyone is so supportive. And I got over it really quickly. But I think it's something that we don't talk about. I think, you know, you'll see women come through the door, new members come through the door, even your own experience. Why do you think that is? And do you think it's an internal perception rather than, you know, an external thing of people judging?
Yeah, I have to say I hate going into commercial gyms for the same reason. Not that I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like in commercial gyms people are very judgy. So I feel like I can relate in that sense that I hate walking in. If someone said go to JD and do a CrossFit workout, I would absolutely shit myself.
What, like, even now it's like...
Yeah, I feel like I'd be so judged for doing a CrossFit workout, although that's probably not the case, and I feel like it is an internal thing of you're worried of what other people will think of you, when actually you're on your own journey. Everyone's been in that position at one point. So I suppose, yeah, it must be an internal thing where people get so worried, but I feel like the hardest thing is stepping through the door and actually starting it. Once you're in there and you're doing it, you kind of just get on with it, but it's actually getting yourself into the gym and doing it. I think that's the hardest part. But yeah, I definitely think it's something internal because nobody ever says anything and nobody's like, oh, why are you moving like that?
Well, I don't know. Jack might have said that. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I think we overthink things, don't we?
Yeah. Everybody has been in a position before where they can't do something and the only way to get better is to do it. So I suppose you do just have to bite the bullet and take it on the chin and just get on with it. But it's hard to do it when you're in that moment and you're looking and you're like, I have no clue what any of this is.
So for you, the biggest barrier at the start was the gymnastic stuff?
Yes. So I'd done trampolining as a kid. So they call it gymnastics, but it isn't. It's so different. Like, I've never had to hold a handstand. I've never had to swing on a bar. I've never had to hold certain positions. Like, you're bouncing on a trampoline. The trampoline gives you most of the momentum. All you've got to do is move your body. So I think the gymnastics side of it was so hard for me to get. I remember trying to learn a muscle up and just being so unaware of where my body should be compared to the bar. And it took me so long to get my first muscle up. And I trained and yeah, just couldn't be aware of my body in a gymnastic sense. Whereas I was the complete opposite with like the endurance side of it. Even the weightlifting side I found really hard because I'd never really lifted a barbell in a snatch or a clean and jerk before. So
that's a scary thing, isn't it? And for me, that was, and I realised how much of it is mental. Again, you talk yourself out of it. I said to Tom, anything that goes above my head, I'm like,
Yeah. It is really scary though, because your head is a very important part of your body. And if you've got a lot of weight above it, it is scary. I feel like, and it's commitment with Olympic lifting. And if you don't commit to it, it's not going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
So committing to something that's going above your head with speed is actually quite scary.
Mm-hmm. How did you get through the barrier of not knowing the gymnastics side of things? Was it literally just turning up every week?
Yeah, so I got PTs after training for probably a few months because I wanted to learn the gymnastics side of it, and I found in classes I didn't quite have the amount of time that I wanted to practice it, because they just go over it. It's like a 10-minute section in the middle of the class. Like, you don't have time to learn a completely new movement to you. So I got PTs with one of the coaches at the gym that I first started at, and I was like, I just want to practice gymnastics, like kipping pull-ups, chest to bar, bar muscle-ups. I wanted to learn it all, and I found that having that one-on-one time really helped me. And then eventually I got a program which also helped me develop those skills once I'd got them. And yeah, I feel like it was just dedicating time to it. If I didn't dedicate time to it, then yeah, I feel like it'd be a lot harder to learn just in classes. But I suppose everybody's different. Like, if you've had a gymnastics background, you probably don't need to focus on it as much.
Yeah, I think what's quite relevant looking around any kind of classes, you'll have people that are good at cardio, you'll have people that might be able to lift so much, but then they're not necessarily great. But with CrossFit, you kind of have to become an all-rounder.
Good at everything, yeah. And that's the hardest part, is being good at everything. Like, if you have a major weakness, it shows so much in competition. Whereas you can kind of get away with it if you cherry pick your classes.
Yeah. Not saying that I do that. At what point did you say, right, this is for me, and this is a commitment I'm going to do? So
when I first joined the CrossFit gym, I was relatively fit, and I moved pretty well. Like, I could pick up movements pretty fast. So who is now my boyfriend, my coach at the time, he was like, I think you should give this a good go. Like, you're really good at it. And I was like, oh, really? So that was then when I got a programmer and followed a program for a little bit. I entered competitions and I did really well at them. And I was like, oh, maybe I can give this a go. So I just kept coming to classes, enjoying my programming and enjoying what I was doing. And I entered RX competitions, and progressively over the past 3 years, I've progressed up through the competitions. So I started with intermediate comps, then went on to RX, and then obviously I did semi-finals last year, which was amazing. So I feel like my progress happened really fast for me to not really understand what was happening. So yeah, I feel like I never really committed. It just kind of happened.
Just happened.
Yeah, which sounds really weird to say, but yeah, it was just a case of I just kept doing what I loved and eventually got better at it.
Well, no, that's the normal route, isn't it? And now this is your job, this is everything.
Yeah.
How is that? Because I was thinking about this the other day. Most people who go to work, I'm not going with get a proper job.
No.
But it's a physical thing that you put yourself through every single day. Like, I've seen you on Instagram, the training, there's no let up. There's also probably the nutrition behind it. It's a lifestyle that merges into a career. How's that been?
I feel like I still don't see it as a job necessarily. I love what I do and I love training. Don't get me wrong, not every day I'm motivated to go into the gym and kill it in a workout, but I have goals now, so I feel like those way outweigh anything that my head's saying, oh, just miss the gym today, you don't need to do it. I think I'm very determined and a very disciplined person, so when I want to achieve something, I've set my mind to it and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So I feel like now it's not really a job, it's more I want to achieve my goals. So if I don't do it, then I won't get there. But I suppose that is with any job, like you always have a reason as to why you show up and why you go to work, whether that be I want to pay for a holiday. Like everybody has a reason as to why they go into work, and my reason is I want to be the best that I can be and I love what I do. So yeah, I feel like I wouldn't change what I do.
What's the ultimate goal? Is it to become CrossFit champion?
Yeah, so I feel like at the moment, it's to get to the games. CrossFit's a bit all over the shop at the moment. I'm not really sure how this season's going to work. I don't know who's going to compete. There's loads of different avenues opening up this year. So I'm a bit lost with where CrossFit's going to go. So although my ultimate goal was to get to the games and do as well as I can at the games, it might slightly change and the next biggest comp might be my goal. But I feel like it's always going to be the best I can be in CrossFit for myself. So whether that be the games or whether it be another avenue that's opened up this year, we'll have to wait and see.
The landscape's changed, isn't it? I remember you saying that because of the death at the CrossFit Games last year, that some people aren't competing. And
yeah, so the whole dynamic of CrossFit has kind of changed a little bit. Sadly, somebody died last year at the CrossFit Games, which has taken a massive hit to CrossFit, and it shouldn't have happened. And yeah, it's really sad, and people are blaming the whole of the CrossFit Games and wanting to not do it, which I completely understand. And I suppose like that's why these different avenues have come out, because they're trying to find a way of professionalizing the sport and making it so that athletes are paid. Like at the moment, no athlete's paid unless you've got sponsorship or you're winning competitions. It's not there's no governing body for CrossFit. So it's not like I can go to Sport England and get funding the same as other sports have. So it's kind of hard in that sense as an athlete to make money, hence why I do coaching, because that is the way that I make most of my money.
Like you say, it's hard, isn't it, when other mainstream sports, the funding is there.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, CrossFit is one of the hardest. Like, I remember we watched the Netflix documentary on it. I was like, that's insane.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing the same, if not more so than a professional athlete. It is a professional sport, but it's just not yet funded.
No.
And that's hard. Yeah, it's hard, which shows how much passion you must have.
I love CrossFit so much, and I love the way that the community is around it and how supportive everybody else is. And I just love the sport in itself. I love competing. So I don't feel like I do it for the money. You definitely need money to be able to live, so it would be useful. But I think, I wish there was a little bit of funding somewhere out there to just help out. But sadly there's not. So you kind of have to find other avenues. And I'm trying to figure that out myself at the moment. Not really having been in the media or on social media or any of that side of things before. Trying to navigate that's a whole ball game in itself. But I suppose it's just a part of the sport. And you just kind of got to
go with the flow.
Yeah, go with the flow and see what happens.
And how's CrossFit affected your life? Has it changed you? I mean, you're still really young.
Yeah.
I can't believe you're like half my age. It's depressing. But how has it impacted? I know you said that you struggled with an eating disorder. Mm-hmm. How has it changed since then, and so, you owe that to? Yeah,
so when I was deep in my eating disorder, the whole reason I exercised was to be thinner. So I think CrossFit's whole dynamic is women should be strong, and I saw that in a whole different light. Like when I came into CrossFit, I didn't see sport ever really as something that was performance based. Obviously as a kid I did, and I loved it, and I wanted to do well in competitions, but when my eating disorder came along, it was all about being thinner, burning calories. So when I got into CrossFit and I saw all these women who were strong, and they weren't necessarily thin, but they had muscle and they were very defined and they did amazing things with their body, I was like, I want to do that too. And so I suppose I started to see my body as a performance output rather than what it looked like, which was a massive change in my mindset. And I genuinely think CrossFit is one of the reasons that I was able to recover from my eating disorder. And it still to this day helps me along when I'm not having the best of days and I find it hard and I'm like, no, I've got goals and I know where I want to be. So it gives me that motivation to keep going and to keep just going on.
I think it's something that with the strength thing with women is on social media, we were never sold up until quite recently, we were never sold this image of a strong woman. It was always the skinny, good looking. And now when I go into a gym, I'm like, oh God, like the muscles on the muscles.
Yeah.
There's a lady at our gym, I think she's probably about the same age as me. I need to find out what her name is, but well, many of them, including yourself, when you see what you can lift, that's just so empowering. And then on your own journey, I say to Tom, when I got literally a weight on a bar, it's so much more powerful than last year I ran the marathon, the Leeds Marathon.
Oh, wow.
It was a really silly idea.
Okay, why?
A lot will explain it is that I now have, I suppose it is diagnosed, ADHD. And I ran out of our estate about a year and a half ago now. And I probably went 500 metres and I was blowing out my arse. Honestly, I went home and Tom was like, "Why, you've never really been this unfit." After 2 kids, I'd left all exercise, and I was like, "I'm going to sign up for Leeds Marathon." He was like, "You are absolutely crackers," but I needed a goal. So we talk about that goal. Like, I think it's something that drives me. And I did training with my mate, and she dragged me out every Sunday for the long runs. And crossing that marathon line was amazing. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I don't want to do injustice to the marathon, but I feel so much more accomplishment if I could have lifted something at CrossFit and strength. I don't know why, but endurance, there's obviously, you know, we shouldn't take away from endurance athletes that it's incredibly good, but there's something in strength, isn't there? And seeing strong people and strong women.
Yeah. I feel like because it takes so long as well to like add a kilo onto your PB or to be strong, whatever that may be. I feel like it takes such a long time compared to an endurance sport. So the feeling when you get that goal that you've been working for months and months and months is, unbeatable. Like when you get a PB, it's literally the best feeling in the world. Whereas I feel like you can gain fitness a lot faster. So I can get fit enough to run a marathon a lot faster than I can gain strength when you're an elite athlete, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't understand that. That makes me feel better.
Yeah, so I feel like, strength definitely takes a lot longer to build, and takes a lot longer to lose as well. Whereas fitness, you can gain and lose very quickly. So yeah, I definitely feel like the reward of gaining strength is more because it takes longer. Whereas with endurance, it's not that it's not amazing, but I feel like you can build it a lot faster.
And what's the perceptions been like from your family and friends into this whole new world of CrossFit?
Yeah, I feel like definitely my mum and dad are super proud of me. And I think that's just because they've seen me blossom from this timid, like tiny 16-year-old to now being who I am now and doing as well as I am. Because, I was on my deathbed and they saw that. And I think they were kind of lost with what was going to happen with my life after that and whether I was ever going to be able to recover. Because I was told by doctors that I wouldn't ever fully recover, which, by the way, is bullshit. So I feel like, they're super proud of me. Obviously, my boyfriend's in CrossFit and coaches. So he's just living his dream out of my eye. Yeah. So he's loving it. My sister thinks I'm absolutely nuts. And then the rest of my family are super supportive. Yeah. I feel like I couldn't have a better support system if I tried. Like my family is probably one of the most supportive families I've got, which I'm super lucky about because I've heard horror stories about people being like, "Oh, you're too muscly," or like, and I think if anybody ever says that to you, that's so wrong. Like, you can never be too muscly.
No, you can never be too strong.
No, 100%.
So when they said that you wouldn't come back from, like, what did they mean by that?
So I kind of hit rock bottom, and I was hospitalized for 6 months. And at that point, my psychiatrist was like, we don't know if she's ever going to fully recover. And a lot of people who end up in her situation are in and out of hospital their entire lives. But I'm not your average person, if we hadn't already established that. And if I want to do something, I put my all into it, hence why I ended up in hospital with an eating disorder. When I decided I wanted to lose weight, I was going all in. But I feel like if I put my drive into the right things, then I can do amazing things. But it was finding that thing that I wanted to put my all into, and then my all is CrossFit now. So I feel like I have a very addictive personality, but if I find the right thing to be addicted to, then
it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, I've come a long way, and I've done lots of therapy and understanding like who I am as a person and my quirks and how I can deal with those without being detrimental to myself. I feel like it's crazy what you can do if you set your mind to something.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think to go through something like that at an incredibly young age, you say were you about 16?
I was 15 when I was admitted to hospital.
I mean, you don't really know yourself at that point,
No.
and life can get really tough. So to get through that and then to come out the other side and now still be in your early 20s and have this big goal. I think it's a journey, isn't it? There's going to be ups and downs, but to see where you've come in such a short period of time is amazing, and I'm super excited to see where you're going to go. I've got to ask you about CrossFit then in the world of competing.
Yeah.
Do you have any fears?
I think, to be honest, the reason I get so nervous when I'm on a comp floor is I fear something's going to go wrong. So I trained for this moment, for this 10-minute workout that I'm about to do, and something could go wrong. I could fail a rope climb, or I might trip on the box, or my echo bike might not turn on, and I'm then stuck in the middle of a workout. So I feel like the reason I get so nervous is because I fear that something's going to go wrong. And I feel like that is my biggest fear, is something going wrong on the competition floor. I feel like you're either nervous because you're scared of what's going to go wrong, or you're scared of losing. Like one of those two situations, and I'm terrified of what's going to go wrong.
But you never second guess your ability?
No. I know that I will be fine, is whether something out of my control goes wrong. But I suppose like sometimes I do second guess myself, and I'm like, should I really be with all of these girls who are like games athletes? Should I be stood on this comp floor with all of these girls? And then when I'm out there and I'm actually sticking with them, it's pretty cool. And I feel like everybody has that moment of self-doubt just before I go out on the comp floor, and then I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'll be fine.
So once you get into it, your mind is set on what you're doing. Is there any particular exercise that you really dislike? Because they change it, right? Don't they? You never know what you're going to get until you turn. I mean, that in itself is crazy.
Yeah, so CrossFit, you've got to train for the unknown, which doesn't really help.
Yeah.
Is there an exercise I really dislike? I don't feel like there is. There's certain movements that I'm maybe not as great at as other movements.
Don't give them away on this podcast. I don't want anyone competing with it to be like, right, I know Connie's weakness.
But I wouldn't say I hate any movements.
Because they throw things in like the swimming.
Oh yeah.
So do you do swimming as well?
So they've pulled swimming from the CrossFit like competitions now because of what happened last year.
Right.
So at the moment, there's no swimming. I did swim like once a week before they pulled it, but now I'm not swimming at the moment because it's not going to come up in competition. Like I know that, so there's no point in me training it. But they do just throw random stuff in there that, especially at the games, they've thrown in things that people have no idea was going to come up, so nobody had trained for it. So they'll come up out on the comp floor and they're trying something that they've never done before, which is very unique in itself. I feel like maybe that's also a fear, is like making an idiot of myself because they throw something out there that I have no clue how to do.
Yeah, and I suppose you've got to learn that skill set very quickly.
Yeah.
Throughout the day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes within like, they tell you the workout and then you go into warm up and you've got 10 minutes to figure it out.
It is unique, isn't it? But it's also exciting.
Yeah.
I remember watching it on the telly and thinking, oh, this is something really different.
Yeah.
Who do you look up to or did you ever start watching the CrossFit Games and have someone in your kind of eyesight as to who you want to follow footsteps of?
Obviously Tia Clatoumi is pretty cool. Like, she's the fittest woman to have ever lived, which is an awesome title. And I feel like she is definitely one of my biggest inspirations. She's amazing. She has like the mindset that I've never seen before. She's so determined, and so ready to take on anything, which is really cool. I feel like all the girls are just awesome. Like, they are all incredible in their own ways.
And is it a supportive, because some sports that you turn up to, it's very competitive and people don't talk to each other. Is it like that in CrossFit, or?
At the top, we don't really talk that much during the competition. Afterwards, it's very different, and we all have a chat. But I suppose when you're there, it is your job, and there's a lot of money on the line. So
yeah, you've got to be focused.
Yeah, you're focused, and I do obviously like engage with people. Nobody's rude. Nobody's like disrespectful to anybody. But you have got your head in the game, and you have a job to do. So you're there to compete. So you've got to take that into consideration when you're in the warm-up area and you're not really having a great chat with everybody. But everyone's lovely, and all the people I've competed against are lovely. I've never had like a bad conversation with anybody. Nobody's ever been rude or horrible to me, which is really nice.
I feel like CrossFit outside of the professional world, just CrossFit gyms in generally, got a bit of a bad rep. Like, you'd mentioned CrossFit a couple of years ago and people say, oh, it's a cult.
Yeah. I've heard that so many times.
I know, and it's so not a cult. It's probably one of the most supportive. Again, it depends which gym you go to, but I've certainly found it's incredibly supportive, and doesn't matter what level you are, there's something there for you. And it's almost family. It feels very much so at ShireFit, a family place where people come together and go home hurting. Yeah.
And I feel like the same. Like, you're not going to walk in and feel like the odd one out. Like, people come and talk to you all the time. I've never been to a CrossFit gym and nobody ever speak to me, which is really nice. So, I feel like so many people are scared to go into CrossFit gyms because they feel like, oh, well, they've already got their community. Like, no one's going to let me in. When actually they're willing to take anybody in and they want everybody to join. So it's definitely not a cult.
Yeah, it's not a cult.
Yeah.
What's next for you then? What have we got coming up?
So my next competition is actually a pairs competition, which is in the start of March, which will be fun. That's Battle for Middle Ground competition. So it's like a UK comp against some UK girls. My partner's Lois Smith, so that'll be fun. And then my first big competition of the year will be Wadland Fest in Malaga, which is the first sanctional event that I'll be doing for the CrossFit Games. So that means that if I come first or second, then I'll qualify for the Games.
Okay, so you do all the kind of outer competitions to then work your way to the CrossFit.
Yeah.
So if you don't get first or second in Malaga, do you then do another competition in between? How does that work?
Yeah, so the Open, which starts next week, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, next week. So those are in-house competitions where you'll do them in your affiliate, and they're 3 workouts over 3 weeks, and you'll do those, and then you're ranked against the world. Top 1% then go to the in affiliate semi-finals, and then top 15 go to the Games from that. So that's one way of getting to the Games. Or there's these sanctional events. So I'll do the Open, hopefully get to semis, and then that'll be in between Wadland Fest and French Throwdown, which are the 2 sanctional events. I hope I explained that right.
Yeah, that's cool. But it's quite a complicated way to...
Yeah, so it's not usually like that. This is the first year they've done it like this. So CrossFit like to throw spanners in the works and change things up every year. So I didn't really understand what it was until a few weeks ago.
I want to ask you about... Obviously, there's a physical training, but we've talked about mental, and I realised just how much of it is mental.
Yeah.
How do you train for that? How do you train your brain to not only keep up the training and the nutrition and everything that comes with it, but is there do athletes also do mental training?
I think you've either got it or you don't. And I don't know if that's a controversial thing to say, but I think for a lot of people, they train day in, day out, and they're super fit. But if you mentally can't push in a workout and you can't keep going when it starts to really hurt, then I think you've either got it or you don't. And if you can't keep pushing, then I feel like that's where your limit is. Mental strength is something that's massive in CrossFit, because when you're 5 minutes into a workout and it really, really hurts, you either slow down or you push harder. And I think there's two ways of looking at it. And yeah, I feel like for a lot of people, you can't train that into somebody. So yeah, I feel like it is a mental battle just as much as it is physical.
Yeah, I don't think it's too controversial, because I think there has to be something that separates the elite from the, not have a go here as that sounds wrong, but it's the combination of being able to do it, but having the mental side, and not everybody does that.
No.
Everybody has that. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I feel like it is definitely, is I've seen so many people and I've coached so many people in gyms, and you can see when that switch goes where they just give up and they're suddenly moving like a snail because it started to hurt a little bit. And I think that's when I've realized, like, yeah, you either have it or you don't. And yeah, I feel like that is something that I've seen, and I don't feel like it's coachable into somebody. I don't feel like you can force somebody to put themselves into a world of pain.
No, you're right. You can lead like I say, you can lead a horse to water, but you know,
yeah,
ultimately it's got to be up to them. I think that comes across in so many areas of life. You know, people ask advice on starting things or getting into different careers. It's like, you can have all the tools in the tool belt, but if you're not willing to push yourself over the line, it's just never going to happen.
100%. It's like with anything in life. I feel like someone can literally lead you like a dog, but if you're not gonna put in the work yourself, it's never gonna work out.
Yeah. And what would you say to women out there that, you know, might be looking at CrossFit or even just weights in a gym, and they think, oh, that's not for me?
I think CrossFit's for anybody, in some sense. So many people have said to me, yeah, but I can't do a muscle up, or I can't snatch 60 kilos. And that doesn't matter at all. In CrossFit, there's so many different scaling options. So everybody can do the same workout at the same intensity with different scales, and they still come away feeling just as beaten up as the person who did it RX. So I feel like for so many people, they look at CrossFit and they're scared because they look at the top end of it. Everybody sees the CrossFit Games, but they don't see what people do in the affiliates. And I think it's so important to realize that it's not just the elites that do CrossFit, and the reason CrossFit's keeping going is because of the people who go and train every day and do the classes, because they're paying their membership, they're paying their affiliate. That means that the affiliates can pay their affiliation, and that's why CrossFit keeps running. Whether that still continues as CrossFit in the future or whether it's a different brand off of that, who knows? But I feel like, yeah, well, my mum does CrossFit, so not that I'm saying she's unfit. Don't listen to this mum and kill me. But
That's so cool.
She's 54. Let me get that right, because otherwise she'll kill me again. But yeah, and she goes to her local CrossFit gym and she scales things appropriately, and she absolutely loves it, and goes with all of her friends who are similar age to her. I do think it's for everybody. I just feel like people don't realise what CrossFit actually is in an affiliate compared to in a competition.
Yeah, you see that televised version, and you don't realise that there's an entry in for everyone.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's the sport of CrossFit, and then there's the fitness of CrossFit, and doing it as something to keep fit and healthy. There's two very different sides to it, and I feel like people just see the sport of it, I suppose, the same as like a triathlon or a sprinter or a marathon runner who does it in the Olympics. Like, they see the sport of it, but then anyone can run a marathon, and that's been shown by so many different people. Yeah. Even yourself.
Yeah, it's true. I need to talk about Cindy.
What about Cindy?
So, Cindy almost brought me to tears. So is it last week? Was it last? I think it was last Monday. There was a exercise, Cindy,
Yeah.
and it felt. I should caveat this with. I didn't do the actual full proper exercise of the kipping pull-up because I'm not even there yet. But even from a box, that workout, I got home and for the whole week I couldn't
Straighten your arms.
I couldn't do this. I couldn't brush my teeth. I got into bed. This is not the greatest advert for CrossFit, but I got into bed and Tom had to roll me from side to side. These things here, what's this?
Your tricep.
Okay, so there we go. These have not been awake in me, I don't think ever.
From the push-ups.
From that, for everything.
Yeah.
From everything. And I have never been in so much pain. And I was laughing because I was like, this is horrendous. But because CrossFit is so different, you must get that all the time. Your body's working on different things. There's never any let up, where if you're running, you're doing the same exercise all the time. So yeah, I just had to put that out about that. My, what are they called again?
Triceps.
Yeah, that you woke them after 40 years of being asleep.
I'm glad I did.
They're prepared now, but I feel like I'm just going to move on to
I
the
promise
next
it gets
thing.
better. Like, I'm not in that much pain every day. I promise.
All right, this is for me to work towards. I'm hoping by 45 that I can get to a kipping pull-up.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That's something to work towards.
That's definitely going to be an aim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good goal.
Yeah. All right, well, you are incredibly inspiring. I am super excited to see where you're going to go.
Thank you.
And I know you're going to smash it.
No pressure.
There's no pressure. I've got some gifts for you.
Ooh.
I know you like pink. Get your very own She Wears Wins Yeti pink
Oh
cup.
my gosh, that is so cool.
And
Oh, the headphones have come off.
yeah, some socks.
Oh. I love me some socks.
Stickers.
Oh. Do these
And-
can I stick these on the back of my laptop?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
And a hoodie.
Thank you.
And if you're okay, can we do a 5-minute bonus where I give you the most silly questions?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool.
I feel like I got this.
Okay, you've got this.